What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Let's Play Europa Universalis 4. We are about to dive into a brand new campaign. We have, of course, already played as England, we've played as France, we have even played as Spain and the Ottomans. However, one country we are still yet to experience is, of course, the Russian Empire. However, it is the year 1444, and the country of Russia does not exist in this time period. So, of course, we are going to be playing as Muscovy and forming the nation of Russia. Now, Muscovy, of course, is led by an incompetent ruler, a 3-1-2, absolute garbage. However, my heir is a 3-3-3. Out of potentially 18 possible points. So, not necessarily all that bad, could be a lot better. Muscovy, of course, is a grand principality and Orthodox. Muscovy has a variety of different ideas. They have some national tax modifiers, which will be very useful. Yearly army tradition, not much, but it will ensure all of our generals are always going to be, a lot stronger than a lot of other neighboring countries. We have some additional missionary strengths, which will be very easy to help convert additional provinces from Sunni or potentially Catholic provinces to Orthodox. And, of course, we have some additional morale of armies. Now, this doesn't necessarily make us fight harder. Morale will help all of our units essentially fight a little bit longer. So, in a way, we will do more damage towards the end of a fight as fights go on. But really what morale does is it allows other units to basically reinforce, because really you're fighting for about a week longer, and then therefore you have a bigger and a wider gap of time while that battle fights on. Other than that, we have some stability cost modifiers. Not really all that necessary, but it is going to be helpful. Fort maintenance modifiers minus 20%. So really we can essentially have a lot more forts. Russia is going to probably have a very broad and very wide border territory. And so, of course, we are going to need to build a variety of forts to ensure security and safety of our nation. And last but not least, we have diplomatic reputation +1. That's going to be very nice because it's going to help us ensure that our diplomatic policies are going to be pushed through. We're going to be able to secure some alliances, some royal marriages just a little bit easier. Now, Muscovy actually starts with some additional diplomatic relations, so we have the ability to have not necessarily more efficient, but we're able to have more vassals and more alliances. We also do some additional shock damage, and if we can somehow make it through and push all of these ideas and unlock all of these new skills, we are going to get Muscovite ambition land force limit modifiers plus 33%. That is absolutely broken. Imagine having 33% more troops on the battlefield. Like, literally, that is insane. Alright, well, anyway, without further ado, let's dive in onto the country of Muscovy. I don't think there's really anything else that would necessarily needs to be mentioned. We are, of course, going to be playing on Iron Man mode. And we are going to, you can see I've already tried this once, but I made a few issues. So Russian imperialism. Basically what happens is I'll try to do a recording. Are you sure you want to overwrite the save file? I'll try to do a recording and I'll basically stutter and I'll sound absolutely ridiculous, and then, I've just wasted 5 minutes. And so what I'll end up doing is I'll end up redoing a recording. Well, anyway, so here we are, initializing the game any second now. One of the very first things that I'm going to be doing is I absolutely need to go ahead and establish my rivals. It's one of the most important things that you could possibly do. And I am going to glance up a little bit. I see that Lithuania looks very powerful and very daunting. Novgorod looks pretty powerful as well, even the Great Kord and Kazan. Let's go ahead and take a quick glance at our rivals. We see that right off the bat, Denmark, Lithuania, and Novgorod all have basically declared us their enemies. So that means Denmark, all the way over here to the west, actually has Norway and Sweden under a junior partnership through royal marriages. So in a way, all of Scandinavia, at least right now, is led by Denmark. So it's not just this very tiny, country of Denmark here. It's all of Scandinavia, so that is going to be very dangerous. We also have Lithuania actually sharing a border, which is very daunting and very dangerous as well. and of course Novgorod up here to the north. Despite it looking so massive, all of these territories, I mean, just this province of Kola here, I could scroll on in, only has about 3 development, whereas my capital probably has around 15. So as you can see, the province of, the country of Novgorod is very large, but the development isn't really there. So I'm not really too scared about them, so I think they are going to be one of the first countries I'm going to gobble up. So without further ado, I believe I'm going to make the Great Horde a rival, if that's even possible. Yes, it is. Let's go ahead, and we are absolutely... I want to make Lithuania a rival too, but I don't think I'm going to be declaring on them anytime soon. Let's actually make Kazan into a rival as well, and we are absolutely going to annihilate Novgorod in time. But unfortunately, you know, Lithuania is pretty powerful, and so is Denmark. But I really, if I could try to, you know, not start a fight with them anytime soon, that is going to be the entire goal. Now, you're probably wondering, why the heck did we establish our rivals in the first place? Now, the idea is if we have 3 rivals, it makes the game interesting, and it encourages power projection. So if we get at least 25 power projection, we get a bunch of free resources, which is the ultimate goal. And if we get positive 25... Excuse me, let me rephrase. If we get positive 25 power projection, we get the ability to have 1 additional leader, which is actually pretty good. And if we get 50, we get an ultimate collection of plus 1 additional resources in every bracket. So an administrative power, a diplomatic power, and a military power. Another thing, now that we have established our rivals, let's go ahead and hire some additional advisors. As you can recall, our leader here, our Grand Knyaz, or let's just say Rurovik, is absolute garbage, a 3-1-2. He is careful, negative 10% aggressive expansion impact, which is actually quite good. And intricate web weaver, I could care less. Every 1 year, I believe this is 10 years, and every 25 years of ruling, you basically get a new trait. And anyway, I would much rather have a much more competent leader, and I would like to get, this is... my heir is actually surprisingly a lot better than I was imagined. I thought it was a 3-3-3, but it looks like it is a 3-4-5. Now, unfortunately, my heir is only 4 years old, so my heir will not come to power until he is age 16. So what I want to do is basically, as soon as age 16 comes of age, or excuse me, as soon as my heir comes of age, I want to basically kill my king, if that's even possible. I know that sounds very ominous and very horrible, but that is what we need to do. Now, let's go ahead and spend some of our ducats. Basically, as you can see, we have administrative power, diplomatic power, and military power, and we can hire advisors to help each of these brackets out just a little bit. So taking a quick glance, you can see that we have a positive 2 administrative skill advisor, a positive 1 advisor, and a positive 1 advisor. But as you can see, it grows exponentially in price. So you would think a positive 2 administrative advisor would actually be 2 ducats per month, but it actually grows exponentially and it costs 4 times as much. Now, as the game progresses, we are going to be making a lot more money and our income is going to be growing substantially. But for right now, I don't really want either of these because this guy is a philosopher and this guy's a theologian. I could spend money and retire them and cycle these through to potentially getting something. Obviously, it's still going to be a rank 1 advisor, but it'll be a different advisor. So it won't be a philosopher or it won't be a theologian. But I guess for right now, because we absolutely want the administrative skill and we don't really want it to be, you know, we want it to be cost effective. So let's go ahead and get this theologian. National unrest isn't needed right now, but it's better than... I lied. Let's get prestige because eventually we're going to get this... mission. Eventually, if we get 50 prestige, we can get a free stability. And I'll talk about that in just a little bit. Ultimately, what prestige does, the more prestige you have, you get a variety of different benefits that I can talk about later, but it's definitely going to make you very helpful. Okay, taking a quick glance, we have just hired our administrative advisor. Now looking at our diplomatic advisor. Much like before, we have a rank 2, and we also have 2 rank 1 advisors. We have a diplomat, and we have a statesman. Let's go ahead. Neither of these are very useful, at least for right now. Let's get a statesman, and let us go ahead and hire our military advisor. Both of these, absolute garbage. Reinforcement speed's not bad, but I would really rather have a master recruiter, though rank 2 master recruiters are very expensive. Or I would rather have a commandant, or maybe somebody who would give me more, a reduction in land maintenance, or which would save me a lot of money. Or maybe something along the lines of more morale. But I guess for right now, let's go ahead and get reinforcement speed, even though we don't really need it. And here we are. Let's go ahead and see if we can get that mission, improve our prestige. We are moving ahead here. And reclaim Velsk. That would be very nice to do. We would get yearly prestige and manpower recovery. Improve relations with Tiver. I could do that, but I think I'm going to actually annex this country first, and then finally improve our prestige. The idea is if we can get 50 prestige, you will get basically 100 administrative power, which is actually really good. And then you could use that 100 administrative power to basically improve your national stability. So let's go ahead and improve our prestige. And finally, we can dive into this actual campaign. So one of the very first things you're going to notice is we basically have a lot of different countries around us, but when you start as Muscovy, you actually have 5 of 5 diplomatic relation slots that are being used up. And so what does that mean? Well, much like Denmark, they have junior partners, Norway and Sweden, and therefore Denmark is the overlord, and they control Norway and Sweden. Well, basically, it's not necessarily a junior partner through royal marriage, but instead, Muscovy has basically vassals that were previously conquered before the 11th of November, 1444. And we actually have 5 of those. So looking at diplomatic relations, we own the province, or at least the country of Perm. Despite it being so big, it's really not. It's all wasteland. And we have this small country of Beluzero, Yaroslav, Rostov, and we also have Pskov. So a lot of very small Russian countries. What we're going to try to do is basically, obviously, conquer some of these other ones that we don't have domain over. And instead of them permanently being a vassal, what we're going to try to do is annex this territory. It's going to cost us some resources, but I basically want this to be Muscovy territory rather than Perminian territory, if that makes any sense at all. Okay, so one of the first things that we're going to do is let's actually move our game time up to about speed 4. And I've got 2 free diplomats. I'll use them in a moment. And what I want to do is basically declare war on either Ryazan or Tiver. And I think we're actually going to go ahead and try to go with Ryazan first. And I get that they aren't necessarily a rival, but I want to gobble them up. So that way they are much, much easier to take, Ryazan, and rather the country of Kazan or something like that. So let's go ahead and send over a diplomat. I want to build up my spy network. And the reason why we want to do that, I get that some people might not necessarily be familiar with the Europa Universalis 4 series. But because we are a Christian nation, most of the world is Catholic. Orthodox is actually a branch of Christianity. But basically, because we are Christian and we are not barbarians and we are not savages, there needs to be a casus belli, which basically means you need to have a claim to go to war against somebody. And now, basically, technically I could declare war without a reason to, but the entire world would absolutely hate me because they would see me as a barbarian and as a savage and uncivilized, and they would necessarily not trust me. So what we need to do is every time we want to declare a war, we need to go ahead and we need to have a claim. So in order to do that, we need to basically send over our diplomats, gather up some dirt on that country, and try to, claim a particular province, and I'm guessing we're going to go with their capital, Ryazan here. You can only put claims on something that is adjacent to your border, so therefore this is Muscovite territory. We can either go for Tula or Ryazan. And of course I want to do the same thing with Tiver. Let's go ahead and build up our spy network there. And unfortunately, I only have 2 diplomats for now. And we actually haven't even started playing yet, which I think is funny. Let's also do a few other things. Because we're not in a war, and we are basically, not fighting anybody, let's bring our army maintenance. We have 100% army maintenance, and I want to bring that down to about 5%. And the reason why is obviously you can see our monthly income is just drastically being improved. We went from negative monthly income to positive monthly income, but at the cost of drastically basically reducing our army's morale. And so the idea is we're going to be saving money, but they're not going to be prepared for a war. So what we need to do is, if we brought the army maintenance down, we need to centralize them into our territory here, try to get them away from the borders, and obviously if we were to become, surprised attacked or surprised ambush, for God knows what reason, these armies they would fight, but I mean, they would probably not last more than a few days. They would only have 5% of their total health. And rather than retreating, they would probably just get outright annihilated. And another thing you're probably wondering is, well, why not just go to 0%? If I did go to 0%, basically I can't move. All my units are locked in place. They're stationary. And I really don't like that. So what we're going to do is bring our army maintenance down to about 5%. And you can see that we also have a variety of forts. And each fort has about 2,000 garrison troops, at least with this level 2 fort. And we have about 3 of those. So what we're going to do is, as you can see, go into our military map mode. We're going to mothball all 3 of our forts. And basically, we're going from 2.05 all the way to... We've mothballed all of our forts. 3.55 ducats every single month. So the idea is I want to have a surplus of income and a surplus of money, because if I do go to war, wars are going to be costly, units are going to die, farms are going to be destroyed, and if we can't support our own empire, we'll have to take out loans and inflation would go up, and it's really not a good idea. Okay, so to make a long story short, and 16 minutes and 30 seconds later, we are actually going to finally hit the unpause button. And one of our very first countries that we're going to annihilate is most likely, Odoyev joining a trade league by Novgorod. Not good. Yaroslav wants a royal marriage. That is my vassal. I absolutely am going to do that. But basically, the very first country I'm going to try to annihilate is Ryazan. At least right now, they don't have any vassals, and they don't have any allies, so it could be a quick pick. That obviously could change in the next 6 months while we are basically building up our spy network and preparing to fabricate a claim. And I'm trying to think what else. I do want to remove Odoyev, but unfortunately they just joined the Trade League of Novgorod. And it looks like some of my vassals want some royal marriages. Essentially what this means is I am going to lose a small amount of legitimacy early on, but ultimately it's mainly an investment because I am going to potentially get a chance of new heirs, which is absolutely what you need if you're a king. Imagine dying and not having any sons. Where does your empire go? And obviously we have, so the idea of this Europa Universalis 4 is that basically you have a dynasty. Not only do you build your empire and build your nation, but you also want to keep your ruling family in power. We also are going to get some yearly legitimacy. Now I said we would lose some, so it's like an investment. Eventually it will pay off over time, and of course improve relations by a small amount with that particular nation. Okay, still waiting for about 20 spy network, and obviously once we get to around 16, we'll probably move our army maintenance all the way to the top. Once again, it looks like we have some provincial unrest. So once we move our army maintenance all the way to the top, we are going to be basically preparing for war, and I want to try to remove Ryazan without the Great Horde intervening. Now, obviously, the Great Horde wants this territory too. So if I can try to remove this threat very quickly and very efficiently, that's exactly the type of mentality that I need to have. Harold from Poland. And let's take a quick glance at the rest of the world. Lithuania are no longer considered a great power. I don't like how it's, Lithuanians are not, or, never mind. It just sounds odd the way people say that. I have a free missionary right now, but unfortunately, because my entire country is Orthodox, I really have no reason for this missionary to try to convert anything. As I take more and more territory, as you can see, Ryazan here, the northern provinces are Orthodox. Now, this one's Sunni. I don't know if I can really convert Sunni provinces just yet, but I obviously am going to try. And it looks like we now have the ability to declare our war. Let's bring our army maintenance up. I don't really want to unmothball our forts, so I don't think I will. They don't have any real allies. And I'm going to bring my armies in place. And I do need to give our units some leaders, a general to lead the army. And we have the ability to have 2 leaders. I only have 1 right now. I could hire another, but I don't really want to waste my military power. And basically, all of these powers, administrative, diplomatic, and military power, basically improve your research and technology as the game goes by. I want to go ahead and fabricate a claim on Ryazan and recall our diplomat as quickly as we can. And I do want to throw a quick claim on Tiver as well. Okay, let's also go ahead and recall you and throw up a build spy network on Odoyev. And everybody seems to be good to go. On the 1st of February, which is next month, we are going to get our last tick of morale, and we are going to be declaring war on Ryazan. Alright, here we are, declaring war for the Conquest Casus Belli, so we have a claim. We are no longer savages. Sending you in. I don't see their army, and unfortunately they have a fort. So I don't know if we can actually reach them in time, which makes me wonder if the Great Horde is going to intervene. Alright, well, thank you all so much for joining me. I hope you all have an awesome day, and I will see you in our next adventure.